All right, everybody, and we are live. You're going to have to bear with me. I'm by myself, so I got to hold this down real quick. Uh, all right. Got the stupid shit out of the way. Got to tweet out. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday night football recap brought to you by the Unwrapped Sports Network. I am Garrett from Iowa. Welcome to you all. Catching me on a Sunday night. I left my shades at my parents' house, so y'all get to see a rare view of me. But first things off, we're going to pay some bills. And then we're going to recap the game and talk a few NFL storyline headlines. First off, we have our very own merch line. I know you can't see it because of the glare, but I do have a poster behind me. I got the OG. I still get that wrong every single time I grab the wrong side, but I got the OG hoodie on. I got a couple t-shirts, got a bunch of cool stuff. Really great. You can find it at teespring.com/stores/unwrapped. Grab all your unwrapped merch there. And yeah, to help us out, support the crew. And then also, if you are a degenerate like myself, be sure to check out mybookie.ag. Great place to gamble. They got all sorts of props and parlays and just lots of really fun stuff, lots of contests. I got a fair amount of money there. Gave them a little bit, got a little bit today. You know how it goes. Back and forth a little bit. But yeah, you can also use code USN100 to get your first deposit matched 100% and a $15 sign-in bonus. So deposit 50, get 100. Deposit $1,000, get $2,000. I think that's where they cap it though. So can't go big baller on them, but yeah, throw $1,000 in there. They'll match it, and away you go. Have a lot of fun. So we got that stuff out of the way. Oh yeah, one last thing. RX Hemp, CBD pain relief. If you eat a steady diet of ibuprofen or prescription pain pills, give RX Hemp a try. Long-lasting pain relief without a prescription. So check that out at rxhemp.com and use code rxhemp/dash, whatever the little line thing, -USN. Get 10% off on top of whatever other deals they have running at the time. So I think that takes care of all the housekeeping stuff, and we're going to get into this game. So we had a very highly anticipated Steelers-Bills matchup tonight, and frankly, I was a little disappointed. It was definitely a lot lower scoring affair than I expected it to be. Really expected to come out and sling. The Bills' offense had looked great. Defense, not so much last week. So really expected the Steelers to do more, get a little bit higher scoring. Before we get all into that, final score was 26-15. Bills went up at halftime and never looked back. Steelers only had the one touchdown in the second half, and Bills pretty much dominated the second half of this game after a really close first half. Like I said, just kind of didn't have the juice I thought I was going to get out of this game. We'll start with the Bills. Allen, 24 of 43 for 238 yards, 2 TDs, and 1 pick. Nothing really special, just about what you expect from Allen. I thought he'd be over 270 yards, but I also thought there'd be a lot more points scored in this game. Kind of surprising for me. And yeah, Bills are a legit team. I just saw that pop up. Yeah, they are very much so. Kind of surprising for me was the rushing attack wasn't really there for the Bills. Moss had 13 carries for 43 yards. Singletary had 7 for 32. Allen had 6 for 28. Just not really a whole lot there. The highlight of the Bills' offense was Stefon Diggs. That guy had himself a game. I think I saw one play that he got tackled where he caught the ball. Every other play, he was racking up that yak yards after catch. Just torching the defense, getting himself open, making guys miss. Ended up with 10 catches for 130 yards and a TD. Very solid. And Allen slung the ball around. Had 6 different receivers with catches. So fairly solid. He also had a fairly significant stretch of the second half there that he went without throwing an incompletion. So he was finding the open guys and just lasering it in there. Very impressive game from him. Other touchdown came from Greg Davis, I think. Last name's Davis anyway. 3 catches for 19 yards, and he added in the TD. So just nothing spectacular. They just grounded out, ran the clock, and got the job done. So Bills have really positioned themselves well going forward as far as the playoff picture goes, and really looking at making a serious run on the AFC side of the ball. The Steelers, on the other hand, kind of a disappointing performance from them. They are now 11-2 after starting 11-0. Seems to be a lot of noise being made about them falling off with the back-to-back losses. I don't put too much stock in that. They're playing hurt. They're pretty banged up. Big Ben, a little concerning, 21 of 37, 187 yards, 2 TDs, and 2 interceptions. The 2 picks are kind of what stand out for me there. That's not normal for Big Ben. But 37 passes as opposed to what they end up with 17 rushing attempts. So, you put the ball in the air more, you up your chances of getting those picks. So there is that part of it too. And had some receivers with some drops. Johnson, is that right? Yeah, Deontay Johnson was actually benched for part of the game, but then he did come back in and looked like he was a man on a mission, ended up with 4 catches for 40 yards, so definitely turned it around there. Smith-Schuster was the favorite target of Big Ben with 6 catches and 55 yards. Schuster looked good. Smith-Schuster, he had a couple catches where he was running people over yards after catch, so but it was not enough. And like I mentioned, they just could not get the rushing game going. A lot of noise this week leading up to the game. James Conner was back off the COVID list, along with their starting center. So they expected this rushing game to be a lot better than it had been in the last week's loss to the football team. And it was not. Just not impressive. Connor had 10 rushes for 18 yards, only averaging 1.8 per carry. Samuels got a few carries, 4 carries, 15 yards. And Snell Jr., 3 carries for 14 yards. Just not really a whole lot going on there on the defensive side of the ball. Diggs and Allen, I'm watching comments here as it's going. So anybody watching this, feel free to drop some comments into the stream. I would be happy to reply. But yeah, Diggs and Allen have turned into a very, very lethal duo. Very impressive. But yeah, on the Steelers side of the ball, very disappointing. The loss last week, I think I said it on the post game. Or maybe it was on NFL Unwrapped. I can't remember. One of the shows I was on last week. I talked about how the loss last week was probably a good loss for them. I would not go so far as to call this one a good loss. It's not even so much that they lost. It just is that they weren't really competitive. I mean, they went up to begin the game. And then Big Ben gave up the pick 6 at the end of the half. And the Bills just never really looked back from that. Steelers couldn't get any momentum going. They couldn't really move the ball. And Buffalo did. The comment was made during the broadcast that Buffalo was pulling a Pittsburgh on Pittsburgh and just establishing the run and eating the clock up and just tearing it up. And they were. They were looking more like Pittsburgh than Pittsburgh was. So definitely, I don't really know what else to take away from this game other than that the Bills are good and the Steelers are in trouble. We'll have to see how the injury report shakes out. I know the Steelers were playing with all backup linebackers, and that was definitely discussed as a factor on the run game side of things. So, yeah, we'll have to see that. And then the comment was also made that at one point in this game, they had their last the only five offensive linemen currently healthy were on the field. So, and especially when you're getting this late in the year, a unit that has played together the entire year versus a unit that's been cobbled together, the difference between the two shows, and not even so much just talent wise, just familiarity and knowing what the guy next to you is going to do makes a big difference. So, saw a lot of chatter about how the Steelers were fake. Saw one of those classic kid tweets. I don't know if y'all know which ones I'm talking about, but it was like, what was it? The guy said, I was sitting there watching TV with my 3-year-old, and he looked at me and said, "But Daddy, didn't everybody know that the Steelers' schedule was a cakewalk, and that's why they were 11-0, and not because they were actually good?" And I smiled because my son understood. And it's like, number one, anybody that tweets those out, I think is dumb. Unless you're trying to do it from a comedic point of view. I've seen some of them that make me laugh, but that was not one of them. And number two, this is not the Steelers team that was playing the first 11 weeks. And I also think nobody really expected them to go undefeated, and nobody really thought they were a powerhouse because they were winning close games, but they were involved in a lot of close games. Most notably the Dallas game before earlier in the year, where it really showed that they could be beaten. So I think the fact that they are not undefeated is not a surprise to anybody. I think it's more a surprise that this game wasn't closer. I really expected this game to go over the 48.5 points. That's a little bit of pain for me on the gambling side of things, but just looking at it, I expected the Steelers to have more production on the offensive side of the ball. I expected them to have a better run game after a really beat up San Francisco team ran all over them last week. So just, yeah, I'm not really sure where you go going forward from here. You got, and the Steelers are in the playoffs at 11-2. That's not really in question. It's more a question of where they're going to end up now. Closing out here, they got the Bengals next Monday night, followed by the Colts and the Browns. Bengals game, they should win, beat up or not. Because, I know they lost to the Washington football team, but the Bengals are not the Washington football team, especially with their number one weapon out until at least next year, if not farther. So with Joe Burrow down. But that Colts game is going to be a really tough one to win, especially if they don't get some of their people back. And the Browns are coming on hot here at the end of the year. So I think a lot of the tomorrow night's game is going to show us what we can expect in that Browns-Steelers game. The Browns are playing Ravens tomorrow night. And then on the other side of the ball, we got the Buffalo Bills. Let's see here. Like I say, y'all got to bear with me. I'm doing everything myself. But for them going out, they got a much better road to the playoffs here. And well, they're in the playoffs, but seeding wise, they got the Broncos next week, followed by the Patriots and the Dolphins. The only scary game I really see out of those three is the Patriots. Broncos looked good this week, but I don't think they're going to beat this. They aren't going to beat this Bills team. Josh Allen's on fire. They're coming on strong at the right time. Very similar to the way the Browns are. And the Dolphins are going to be a good team. They need a little bit of draft help coming up or some offseason help, but they got the basic pieces there. They just don't have all the pieces yet. So I don't look for them to beat this Bills team. The Patriots, the problem with the Patriots is that it's fucking Bill Belichick. I mean, you could put that guy out there with a JUCO roster and he'd find a way to win games. So that anytime you're playing Belichick, it's a little bit scary. I know Cam hasn't really had that good of a year, but they also won a game 45-0 where he completed 69 yards of passing. So just I don't know. Oh, Connor 2 fantasy points. Yeah. Thanks for the comment, Danny. I am not in a fantasy league this year. I got a little frustrated last year, so I didn't do one this year, but there was a lot of what the fuck in this game as far as fantasy production, gambling production, things like that. I don't think this was the score or the game that anybody expected to happen. And boop, start Mitch Trubisky every game. I agree. It is really looking like Mitch never should have been benched. So really, I was going to get into that anyway. So let me get it pulled up here for the Bears and what they did today. Because the Bears beat the to 7. Yeah, that's a lot of points. So looking at really impressed. Mitch Trubisky wishes he would. No, not Rex Grossman. Come on. I'm starting to think Wise Cheese started a troll account just to comment on me. But no, Trubisky does not wish he was Rex Grossman. Come on now, you're killing me here. But the Bears did come out and beat the Texans 36-7. Our boy Mitchell Trubisky, 24 of 33 for 267 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's a great stat line. Great stat line. And unfortunately, the Bears are now back in the playoff talk. I hate to say I told you so, but I think I mentioned on at least 3 different streams I expected the Bears to win this game for no other reason that it would fuck up them having a top 10 draft pick. So the Bears are going to Bears. They did look really good. I kind of want to take a step back from everybody jumping on the Mitch Trubisky is the Messiah train after this game again, because this is the Mitch we have always seen. He will come out and he will play great. Just look amazing. Damn near 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And next week, his stat line will be something like, and maybe it won't be next week. Maybe it'll be 2 weeks down the road. But and it might not even be this season because there's not a lot left. But if this was a full season, this was like week 2, everybody would be really super high. And he'd come out like week 4 and he'd be like 15 of 32 for 180 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. We cannot get a consistent Mitch. This was a really good game that showed what Mitch can do. And I think it definitely clearly established that he's better than Foles. And he always has been. So definitely like that. The other big thing I like there is I had the run game going. Montgomery, 11 carries, 113 yards. That guy is a machine. If you can get him to the line of scrimmage before he gets hit, he's going to get you yards. Just game in, game out. He's a machine. Patterson tacked on 6 rushes for 26 yards. So, and A-Rob had himself a game, made some money there. 9 receptions, 123 yards, and a TD. Graham got a TD. Mooney got a TD. That was a beautiful TD by Mooney out in the flat. Just juked the shit out of everybody. And, I mean, and the Bears' defense was the Bears' defense. Held Watson to 21 of 30, 219 yards, only 1 TD. Rushing, I think their leading rusher was 11 for 42 with Howell Jr. Watson only had 7 carries for 38 yards, and he's a dual threat quarterback. Just David Johnson, UNI boy right there. We love our UNI boys around here. I do anyway. That guy was really fun to watch in college. I watched a few games. I was at a few games he played in. But yeah, he was only 8 carries, only 26 yards. They did a really good job of containing and stopping the Texans from scoring points, obviously, 36-7. So, yeah, really impressed by the Bears there. Do not think this saves Nagy's job. Might help out with Pace, which I wouldn't be upset if Pace was stayed there anyway. But I don't think it saves Nagy's job because it just kind of shows what they should have been doing all year, and he benched the quarterback they could have done it with. So, we'll see. Could be right, could be wrong, but that's kind of where I think about that. Another big headline coming out late this afternoon came out of the Raiders game. The Las Vegas Raiders. I can't even do the voice, but apparently there's a voice that goes with saying Raiders. Played the Indianapolis Colts and lost 44-27. Not really a good showing from a team that 3 weeks ago everybody thought would be seriously contending for a deep playoff run after they beat the Chiefs once and almost beat them a second time. And Carr was looking amazing. Let's see here. Raiders stats. Carr had a fairly solid game comparatively, especially the last 2 weeks. 31 of 45, 316 yards, 2 TDs, 2 picks. Don't really like to see the 2 picks, but at least it wasn't 4 turnovers by himself. So you take what you can get. Not a whole lot of rushing. Jacobs led the way with 13 carries, 49 yards. Nelson Aguilar, who I hated when the Raiders picked him up. My dad's a big Raiders fan, so I kind of got a soft spot in my heart for him. The Bears are my team, but soft spot for the Raiders. I was not happy when they picked up Aguilar just because of how terrible he did last year with the Eagles, but 5 catches for 100 yards, and he's putting himself together a season. Tight end Waller, 7 catches, 75 yards. Just that guy's turned into a beast, averaging almost 11 yards a catch this game. Renfro had 5 for 38. Ruggs had 3 catches. Booker had 3 catches. Richard had 4. Renfro. Morrow had 1. I mean, they spread the ball around. They moved. They put up some points. It was not enough. Has old man Phillip Rivers and his 13 or 18 or 9 or 48, however many damn kids he has, 19 of 28, 244 yards and 2 TDs. And Mr. Jonathan Taylor. I really hope to never see that name line up opposite of my team again once he was out of college because, yeah, he ran all over us when he was at Wisconsin. But 20 carries and 150 yards for a 7.5 yard per carry average and a pair of TDs. Just not a good showing. And obviously the front Oakland ownership group thought so too because their defensive coordinator was relieved of his duties before the day was out. So they are moving on from the defensive coordinator. And I'm a little torn on that. Obviously, you don't want to give up 150 yards rushing. But on the other hand, holding Phillip Rivers to under 300 yards is a decent effort. And really, to beat the Colts, you got to put up more than 27 points. Well, just not real sure what the angle is there with getting rid of the defensive coordinator, but it is what it is. So, and let's see, what other fun stuff happened today? Let's see here. NFL scoreboard. I'm going to have to look because I don't remember everything. All right, let's see. Rams Patriots on Thursday night. I'm pretty sure everybody watched that game. The Rams just dominated them. I'm not going to revisit that. I did a recap on that with Connie Chats if you want to go back and look at more about that one. Cowboys beat the Bengals 37. Not really a big deal there. Oh, yeah, I remember the other two games we need to talk about. So we got Kansas City Chiefs over the Miami Dolphins, 33-27. And everybody expected the Chiefs to win that game and it not to be close. So kudos to Miami on keeping that game a lot closer than anybody thought it was going to be. The big story was Mahomes, 24 of 34, 393 yards, 2 TDs, and 3 interceptions. That was the big storyline coming out of there. Holy cow. Shit. Mahomes threw 3 interceptions. Pump the brakes on that for a second. I'm going to talk about another game, and then we'll probably come back to this also. But the guy has 5 on the year. Okay, when you throw as much as Mahomes does, the numbers are eventually going to catch up to you, and you're going to get some throws picked. Because, you're playing at the NFL level. You miss a deep ball by 6 inches, and it's a pick instead of a completion. You catch a bad tip. You get it batted up at the line. Stuff happens. When you throw as much as the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes do, you're going to have interceptions. And it just so happened that Mahomes had all 3 of his in one game to give him a season total of 5 instead of scattering them across the last 12 games. If he had 5 interceptions over 12 games, nobody's talking about this. But because they just all came home to roost at one time, everybody's making a big deal out of it. And that kind of ties into the other game, which was Packers-Lions. I actually watched this game. I was very disappointed in the Lions. They just... final score was 31-24, and that score is a lot closer than the game was. Green Bay was just pretty much in control the entire time. Detroit went up 7-0. Green Bay came back and went up 14-7 and basically never looked back. And about the only thing, Detroit made a push at the end. They were down. They held Green Bay to a field goal, so they only went down 10. Drove the ball down, caught a holding penalty, ended up a little short, and kicked a field goal. So the score was 31-24 with like a minute 30-something left. I'm telling you, kids, until you're on this side of the mic by yourself, you don't realize how much you actually have to fucking talk to make a live stream go 28 minutes yeah, I'm at almost 28, but so forgive me while I wet my whistle a second. All right. Where was I? Okay, so Detroit kicks the field goal, scores 31-24. There's like a minute 30-something left. They line up for the onside kick. Green Bay chooses to ice the onside kicker, which I've never seen done before, but I guess maybe you weren't sure if they were going to kick an onside kick, even though I'm pretty sure me, my wife, my kid, my mom, my dad, the 80 million other people watching the game, and that one dude's deaf, dumb, and blind grandma sitting in the corner knew that an onside kick was coming. Like, they had to. Only chance to get into the game. So they ice the kicker. He kicks it off. Ball has a lot of spin on it, goes spinning down towards the sideline, almost catches one of Detroit's player. He manages to dodge it. Almost catches a Green Bay player. He manages to dodge it because they don't want it to be a live ball. And then as it's in the air going out of bounds, roughly 11 yards downfield, a Detroit player reaches out and grabs it. It drops to the ground. The ref said that his toe was touching a blade of grass that was connected to the out-of-bounds line. So, therefore, he was out of bounds, and it was Green Bay's ball because the ball was out of bounds and penalty for kicking it out of bounds on a kickoff. I don't like the call. You can argue all you want about technicalities, I watched like 6 replays on it, and Detroit recovered that ball. I'm not saying they would have won. I don't even know if they would have got to overtime because they still had to score in a minute 30 and convert a 2-point if they wanted to even force it to overtime. So I'm not going to go so far as to say it cost them the game, but it definitely cost them a chance. And I do my very best not let my biases show through, but all honesty, I don't really like Aaron Rodgers. But even just putting that aside, it just seems that Rodgers and the Packers get flags and get calls when they need them. And I think this was just another example of that. Was just did not like that call. But moving on to the rest of the game, because I don't have anybody to argue with it about because it's just me. So you guys get to listen to my side, and that's it. What's up? But rest of the game. Aaron Rodgers, 26 of 33, 290 yards, 3 TDs, no interceptions. And then Jones added on 15 carries for 69 yards. Williams had 10 for 38. And Rodgers himself had 6 carries for 13 yards and a rushing TD. Fairly impressive game. And kind of why I wanted to talk about these two games. I'll hit up the Lions real quick too. Stafford, 24-34, 244 yards and a TD. Looked okay, but not great. Swift, 7 for 24. Agnew, 1 for 11. These are rushing yards. Peterson, 4 for 7. They didn't really seem to have a run game going. And against this Packers defense, you should be able to run the ball. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that one. But anyway, Packers won the game. Rodgers had himself a game, and Mahomes had a 3 interception game. Everybody, Green Bay especially, seeing a lot of it on Twitter, seems to think that this somehow puts Rodgers at the front of the MVP race. I really don't see it. And just even looking at it objectively, I like I said earlier, I don't really like Rodgers, but I'm not going to tell you he's a bad quarterback because he's not. He's an incredibly talented quarterback, does an incredibly good job. And if you watch that Lions game, you cannot say that Rodgers is a bad quarterback. I just don't like him, but that's neither here nor there. Green Bay has 3 losses. The Tampa Bay game and the Indy game, Rodgers couldn't get it done and couldn't win the game. The Tampa game was especially bad for him. And then on the other side of the ball, you got Mahomes, who, he did have a 3 interception game, but he still threw for almost 400 yards and won the game. He didn't play so badly, even with 3 picks, that they lost the game. So I really don't think this moves Rodgers ahead of him in the MVP discussion. I think it's a very clear number 1 and a very clear number 2, being Mahomes and Rodgers. But I think I started saying this 3 weeks ago, or at least 2. Mahomes is going to have to fuck up to lose this MVP. He's just been doing too much. That offense has been too explosive, and he drives it in Kansas City. And as much as you want to yell about 3 interceptions, it's only 5 on the year total. He's been doing very well with the ball. And the fact that he had a 3-pick game and still threw for 400 yards, 2 TDs, and 1 does not move Rodgers ahead of him in the MVP standings, in my humble opinion. And like I said, I will admit that I am not a Aaron Rodgers fan, but I'm not delusional. I will not tell you that he is not a very good quarterback, and he is a very clear number 2. And if it was for Mahomes having the year that he was, he'd be number 1 as far as MVP goes. But I don't think one slightly off game from Mahomes, where he still won, is going to offset the bad games that Rodgers has had. Mahomes, and like I said, I'm not trying to take anything away from Rodgers. He's a very good quarterback. But the fact of the matter is that Mahomes has put together a much better season than him. at this point, and nothing that's happened this week changed that. Oh, let's see here. Other fun stuff going on. The Washington football team beat the 49ers 23-15, and the Giants fell to the Cardinals 26-7, giving the football team sole possession of the NFC least. So, yeah, whoever has to go and play the Washington football team first round, don't sleep on that game. They're looking like a scary team. Seahawks bounced back and beat the NFL's junior college team, the New York Jets. Eagles knocked off the Saints in Jalen Hurts' first appearance. I think I'm going to wrap up with that game. Let me see if we got any other scores. Chargers beat the Falcons 20-17. And I think that's all the games so far. Yep. And then we got Ravens-Browns tomorrow night. I got the Browns. They're hot. And now back to Eagles Saints, and then I'm going to wrap up on this one. Thank you all for hanging out and listening to my dumbass ramble on so far. So, final score is 24-21. Yeah, Hurts came out and balled out. 17 for 30 passing, 167 yards and a TD. Taysom Hill also had a very solid game, 28 of 38, 291 yards, 2 TDs, and 1 pick. So, both quarterbacks came out here and played. The Eagles pulled off the win. Let's see what Hurts do rushing. Hurts had 18 carries for 106 yards rushing on top of his 167 yards passing. And Hurts looked really good. Definitely made this team look better. I have a fair amount of Twitter follows from around the Pennsylvania, Philadelphia Eagle Twitter area, and it seems that Eagles Twitter is about split. Half of them are really excited and that they have found their new quarterback, and the other half is happy that they won, but want to know why they switched the offense for Jalen Hurts and they won it for Wentz. I can see both sides of the argument. I'm not really deep enough into Eagles football to say which one is right. But I think Hurts definitely established himself. The Saints are it's not like he won against the Jets. And the Saints are a real contender, are going to be in the playoffs this year. Drops them to 10-3, but yeah, they're going to be in the playoffs this year. They might not end up locking up the 1 seed because both they and the Packers are 10-3, and one of the Saints' 3 losses is against the Packers, so the Packers have the tiebreaker. But that Hurts came out and showed up. It kind of puts the Eagles in a rough spot with Wentz's contract, so it's just kind of hard saying what they're going to do going forward there. But yeah, the kid looked good. Great first start, great first win. Congratulations to Hurts. So, other than that, I'm probably going to wrap up this show because, about 40 minutes of rambling is about all I got for y'all, and that's probably about all y'all can stand to listen to. So, I am, once again, Garrett from Iowa with Unwrapped Sports Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Garrett from Iowa, and I got an XFL show with my co-host Moose Wednesday nights at 8 Eastern, 9 Central. So be sure to check that out. And also check out the Unwrapped merch store at Teesprings/stores/unwrapped. Grab all your Unwrapped merch. We got some King James stuff on there and a whole bunch of cool stuff. Check it out. They got a new sitcom line that just dropped. So I think there's some more stuff in the works too. So keep an eye on that. And check for all your gambling needs, check out MyBookie at mybookie.ag and use code USN100 at sign up to get your first deposit matched 100% and a $15 bonus. And last but not least, if you have any aches, pains, chronic pain, stuff like that, check out RX Hemp for CBD pain relief and use code RXHemp-USN for 10% off your order. And that discount stacks with any other discounts that you may have for, or bulk ordering, things of that nature. Just Add up all the discounts and then use our code to get another 10% off on top of that. That's all we got. Signing off. We'll catch you guys next time.